Today on Marvel Movie News, let there be carnage, because that's the official title of Venom 2. We're going to talk about that, so much more, including the Spider-Man title. There's just a lot of title talk. It's a lot of title talk, but we're also going to get into the best alternate Marvel reality to talk about, and there's so much to do on today's Marvel Movie News.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Marvel Movie News.
We're live, Zach, and welcome to Marvel Movie News, everyone.
I lost audio there for a moment.
Yeah, I think that you weren't hearing Ryan.
I was not. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Marvel Movie News. Thank you for covering for me, Christian.
That's what I'm here for.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm Zach Wilson. That was Christian Bladt covering my ass. Oh, boy, we're off to a fun start today, folks. Zia Anderson, unfortunately, could not join us this week.
As we like to say, on assignment.
Zia is on assignment. She's rereading House of M, is what I heard.
It's probably
so
not.
We're going to talk about. We got a lot to go over, and we want to welcome a guest to the show. He is an independent comic book writer. For his series, The Alternate, is available now on Comixology. It's Jeff Winstead. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. And although I didn't prep you for this, I'm going to put you on the spot in the moment. Because let's introduce you to our merry Marvelites. Who is your all-time favorite Marvel character or characters? I'll let you cheat a little bit if you're like, I don't want to have to pick between two favorites. Who is your favorite Marvel character?
Yeah, sure. It's an easy, obvious choice. I'm a Spider-Man guy. If I had to go number two, I guess I'd go Hulk, mostly based on the Peter David run. But yes, total, Spider-Man all the way. I've followed that book since I first got into comics at 13. And
no one's going to fault you for loving Spidey.
Yeah, what can you do? It's very relatable when you get into the book as a teenager, so it really it hooks you in that way. So
yeah, which Jeff and I started reading in similar time periods in the mid 80s, and this is when Peter was in grad school. So the editorial thinking a few years later was, well, nobody can relate to a Spider-Man that's still in grad school, but that let's make him younger again. And I don't know, I kind of liked that he'd actually, the character had gotten older, and we get a lot of exciting things that happen in that era of Spider-Man, including a character that we'll be talking about, a title for his big screen movie very soon.
Yes,
that's right.
We'll also be talking about the title for Spidey, because we got not the whole title, but we know a piece of it. We'll tell you what piece coming up. So we're gonna break all that down. We've also got some updates on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. By update, I mean like James Gunn did a Twitter Q&A or an Instagram Q&A, and we're gonna overanalyze one thing that he said, and we're gonna play a fun game and talk about the best alternate realities at the back of the show. So let's get started with the big news, our lead story for this week, and that's Venom, or if you want to pronounce it the proper movie way, Venom, because you're not allowed to pronounce it any other way. And so Venom 2 officially has a title, and they did a double whammy announcement, because they gave you the good news that there's a title, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, because we didn't already know that Carnage was going to be in the movie, so they had to let us know. At the same time, they announced that it is officially being pushed back to 2021. It will now, instead of being released this October, Venom will hit theaters June 25th of 2021. 2021 quickly becoming the most crowded box office year in history.
Yeah, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, hey, we could get 7 Marvel movies that year. I don't think we will, but we could.
Well, it's especially with Morbius and Venom getting pushed into 2021. Like not MCU films, but you're getting close. I think you're at 6 currently scheduled Marvel movies of one kind or another.
Obviously New Mutants is definitely going to come out, so that'll be in 2021 as well.
Yeah.
So,
that could, if New Mutants got pushed into 2021, that would be 7 Marvel movies next year. So it's
by the way, if New Mutants gets pushed into 2021, I'll be really worried about what's going to happen that week before because of what happened this time. So I'm going to stay in my house.
Well, the trick with the releases, right, and the scheduling is depending on how much the movies tie together, you can only delay certain movies so much. And rejuggle the schedules, based on what's been filmed and what the stinger is at the end, and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really interesting. We got really crowded. We got to get this out before this one. So let's go ahead and push them out, within 2 weeks of each other.
Yeah, the real. I mean, they just like push everything back in the pattern at this point. But we talked about it before, but like the Disney Plus shows are the big X factor because we don't know how much those we know how a few of them tie together. Like we know that WandaVision has to come out before Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah,
because we know that Scarlet Witch is going to show up in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But can you put out Black Widow after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or does it have to go before? Because it was supposed to be before. We'll just have to wait and see. But going back to Venom, what do you guys think of the title? Let There Be Carnage.
Well,
silence.
As you alluded as you alluded to, we knew Carnage was in it, and Gamer Girl in the chat already said she doesn't like the title. I like the title. If they are going to basically make it a shot-for-shot remake of Let There Be Blood with Woody Harrelson in the lead, then I'm going to be okay if that. No, I think that I think it's fine. Look, they want people to know what's special about this movie. I think it's fine. It's not my favorite title. And I think the Carnage character is interesting. Where I fell off from Spidey in kind of the early 90s was when it seemed like Venom and or Carnage were at least twice a year. And I was like, oh, there's so many other villains. I don't need them. But I'm excited to see the movie version of Carnage. So the title I think is okay. But, the fact that we already knew this doesn't take away from my excitement that I'm glad we will get to see Carnage on the big screen.
Yeah. Carnage as a character doesn't interest me at all, except for the fact that Woody Harrelson is playing the character. I think that's the real kicker with it. So it's an obvious title, but it's selling the soap in that sense.
Yeah, it's I mean, look, Carnage has never been a favorite by any means. Venom is like one of my favorite foils to Spidey, but we're also living in this world where like maybe the Spider-Man's there, but he's probably not, but like he could be. And we'll talk. There was another Instagram post that we're gonna overanalyze in a moment. But I think if you're gonna do a Venom movie without Spidey, you need somebody like Carnage to play the foil. Like we're doing the anti-hero version of Venom. So he needs the true, just like what does the bad symbiote look like? And that's Carnage. Like that's the first movie. That was one of the things that I kind of was like, meh about in the first one is that we did like the evil symbiote, but it wasn't like we know we're gonna do another evil symbiote, I'm sorry. We're talking about Venom here. The symbiote. So you might as well just lean into the most extreme version of that. And that is absolutely Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah. In the chat, Kame Egan says the new Venom title is pretty cool. As long as the story is better than the first film, Zia would fight you on that. And Carnage gets some major screen time. I think you're not going to hire Woody Harrelson and, give him like 20 minutes of screen time in the movie. I think we're going to see a lot of Cletus Cassidy, but then we're also going to see a lot of Venom as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. My main thing that I want to see in this movie is I don't want them to. I think we're at more of a risk of them overusing Carnage. To be honest, I want to see Eddie Brock have more character work to do in this. I want to see a back and forth. I want to see that because I've talked about it before. My favorite thing about Venom is the analogy for a romance between Peter Parker and the suit, and then Eddie Brock, and it becomes a triangle, and then you get the new lover who really like makes you your best self with Flash Thompson. That's the thing that fascinates me about Venom, is the idea that it's like tracking a relationship across these different superheroes. So I want to see something like that, where you actually have to have Eddie Brock and the suit just like find that like deal with issues, deal with their own personal stuff between each other. Like, we're fighting too much. I just want to hang out on the couch and watch TV. No, Eddie, I want to go bite people's heads off.
Come on. So a couple comments in the chat that Daniel Drew says, I still don't like Harrelson playing Carnage, but enjoys Carnage in the comics. I just hope they do it right. So that's a sort of an opposite decision. And another comment from Cam A. Egan, because do you think Woody Harrelson was a bad casting choice for Carnage, similar to Jamie Foxx as Electro? I think the casting of Jamie Foxx as Electro was not the mistake. It was the direction and the way that character was written. Him as a supervillain would have been fine. I just think what they gave him to work with. I mean, I love Jamie Foxx in, most things that I've seen him in, and that is not one of them. And I do like that movie. I'm one of the only ones who likes Amazing Spider-Man 2, but he's not my favorite part of it. I think Woody Harrelson, so great. I mean, he's Woody on Cheers, but then he's also True Detective. He's in the Hunger Games. What can't Woody Harrelson do? Well, I guess what he can't do is not latch onto a conspiracy theory. That's the one thing he can't do. But other than that, what can he do on screen?
I think he's a great choice for this character. You could have gone in a very different direction, but I think if you're gonna go with like a crazed guy from the South who snaps and wreaks havoc, he's perfect, and he's gonna elevate that character into some crazy territory, literally and figuratively. I personally, I like this title because it's weird. It's like that thing where you come up with, in order to like brainstorm out something good, you come up with 100 different options, and by the time you get to like 75, you're just like, what are we gonna do with this? I have no idea. Let there be carnage, and you're like, huh. Like, that's one of those deep down the list ideas that you just like fall for. I like it. It's weird, but I also love the title for Thor: Love and Thunder, and I know Christian hates that title.
Not a fan. I'm sure I'll like the movie, but
yeah.
That's of all the Marvel movies on in Phase 4, that is by far my favorite title.
I've come around on Multiverse of Madness because having that name I think makes me more excited for it. So Doctor Strange I'm okay with, but Thor: Love or Thunder, I would take that. Why don't we have Thor: Thunderstruck? There's so many other ways to go. But anyway,
because then you have to pay out AC/DC.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They already did that for Iron Man 2. They're just
that's true.
Not again. No, I love the idea that like it's all about that Thor 4 is going to be basically just a rom-com. It's going to be a rom-com in space with a lot of hammers.
Yeah. I think that's what it'll say on the poster. Rom-com in space, a lot of hammers.
I'm just saying, Disney marketing, I'm available.
I am glad with Carnage, with the Venom sequel, that they saved Carnage for the sequel, because there's a trend with the Marvel movies in general where the origin movies, the character's always fighting an evil version of himself. Ant-Man is like that, the original Iron Man, Doctor Strange, the Incredible Hulk movie. There's essentially Captain America, Red Skull's essentially
Red Skull's the Nazi version of Steve. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's nice at least that they saved that this time out for the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, this is not meant to be a slight, but it is an easy way to do an origin story, because forcing somebody to deal with their own inner demons personified and deal with what is the worst version of yourself, like what is the bad direction you could go, and to like literally put it in front of you is a very clear way to demonstrate, to show off a character before you then get into sequels where you can go in any different direction because you've established the character. It's why you had it's why it's so prevalent, because it is a very clean way. It's not easy, because easy sounds like I'm slighting people, but like it's a clean way. It's just a good way to
absolutely
introduce your character. But when we can get past origin stories, we can start to get into some weird territory, like look at Thor Ragnarok. But
yeah, and look, and two of my non-MCU movies, but two of my favorite superhero movies are Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi one, and X2, because once you get the origin story out of the way, you can really get into what I think is some of the best storytelling. So
yeah, absolutely. But let's stay in title discussion land. Or actually, hold on. I was getting ahead of myself, because there's one more thing to talk about with Venom that will also be a clean transition point for me to get to the next story. Tom Hardy posted on Instagram and then immediately deleted a photoshopped image of Venom crushing Spider-Man between his jaw. It's the MCU Spidey suit just broken up as Venom takes a giant bite of Spider-Man. Probably just Tom Hardy messing around while going nuts in quarantine, but maybe not. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is where we're coming eventually. I have to think that the whole deal that Sony made with Marvel this time out had to have included allowing the Marvel MCU Peter Parker to show up in these movies, or vice versa, somewhere along the line. So I don't know if I don't know if it's this movie. That might be like a stinger thing. So maybe the third time out.
I think that if we were to see that image in the movie, it would be some kind of fantasy sequence. I don't think that Tom Holland's going to get eaten, but I think that it definitely has us excited at the idea of, even if we just see him for a second, swinging by way off in the background, or we just see him as Peter Parker. The idea that we could see him in the movie, that's the exciting thing. I do not think Spider-Man is going to get his head eaten.
No.
If it does, I will never show this movie to my kids. So, just keep that in mind.
No. Of course, it's not going to be like a moment in the movie, but you could see it as, if Spidey was going to be in this film, I could see it being like a promo image to get you into the theater. I still don't think that Spider-Man is going to play a large part in this movie. That would be a huge surprise, even though we know that's been Sony's like big want. That was the big thing in those negotiations with Disney, is they wanted Tom Holland to be in the Venom movies, and they then wanted Venom to appear in MCU movies, because they want more of that Disney money from those box office receipts. But we'll just have to wait and see. Sony has the rights to. They could do it if they wanted to. They don't technically, other than I think there was a discussion about the Spider-Man suit, the specific suit from the MCU might not be able to show up in the Sonyverse movies without their permission. And that's why you had the Raimi suit on the wall for in the Morbius trailer.
Yeah.
Is that Sony doesn't have full rights to the MCU suit, which is like a weird, complicated, this is all legal stuff I don't understand it, but I have to try to.
It's all very strange. And then keeping in mind that Kevin Feige, who honchos everything at Marvel, has a firm grip on the way these stories unroll. So it's hard to see him saying, sort of giving Sony free range.
He doesn't want to
use their stuff.
He doesn't want to let anything outside of his sandbox.
Exactly.
But Sony still has the rights, and they have the rights to title these movies in conjunction with Kevin Feige. And that's what we're talking about now, because Amy Pascal was talking about Spider-Man 3, the new one, not the old one. We don't know if it's going to be.
We don't talk about that one.
I was going to say it's not the dancing one, but like, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in this one.
There could definitely be dancing.
But she did. So she didn't give us the full title, but she did tell us that it will have the word home somewhere in the title. And we theorized about that before, because that seems to be like the clean way to just make this a trilogy. It's the Spider-Man home trilogy is what we'll probably begin to like call it as we go forward, because you need to differentiate when you talk about Spider-Man 2. And then like what you're like, wait, do you mean like Spider-Man 2 or like Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man Far From Home? Because those are all technically Spider-Man 2. So what do you guys think this title could be? It's coming out, it's scheduled for July of next year, not pushed back yet. Although with Venom coming out in June, having another Spider movie 3 weeks later seems unlikely.
Well,
But
Zach, I know
still
you hope
scheduled
it's
for
pushed.
July.
I know you hope it's pushed to the holidays because then it feeds into the title you want.
Home for Hanukkah. Perfect.
Exactly.
I know you could do Home for the Holidays and not like alienate people who don't understand what Hanukkah is, but like, come on. We all know Peter Parker's Jewish.
Do we though?
Are any of them actually identified as Jewish, by the way? Or any of the Peters?
Technically, Peter
Only
B.
Ben Grimm.
Parker in
Okay.
Into the Spider-Verse is the only one who has been like truly identified as Jewish, because at the wedding that sequence in Into the Spider-Verse, Peter B. Parker crushes a glass
I do remember.
under his foot.
That's right.
He like he's getting married in a Jewish ceremony. But
do-
the marriage of the Chris Pine Spider-Man, like the Miles Morales' universe in that movie, he gets married in a regular ceremony, so he's probably Christian.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you never know. You never know when he decides to convert. Yeah, I mean, it's
he's
funny
from
because
Queens,
like,
guys. He's Jewish.
Homecoming, I thought was great because it really spoke to that. So, I don't know. It's the idea. I mean, Far From Home made sense because he was traveling, and then this one, it's like, well, he's kind of on the run, and is it just simple? Do they just go, no place like home? And does he just click his little Spidey boots together and then he goes back to see Auntie M as in Aunt May? I don't know.
No Place Like Home isn't bad. It definitely fits with it, because like, what do we know about the plot? It's going to be him most likely on the run. It's either him on the run or it's him like fighting legal battles for half the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have two. It's either going to be called Spider-Man Home.
Oh, just
this is-
home.
Okay.
Yeah, him being pulled back, back into. So we start the movie where he's on the run, and then 15 minutes in, it's about him getting pulled back into whatever whatever plot is happening in New York. Or it's Spider-Man homegrown, and he's in Mexico as a marijuana grower. I think that might be the way to go.
That's his
we'll
underground
see.
undercover
I mean,
identity.
All he has to do is
Yeah.
move to LA. We got a couple of good ones from the chat.
Here,
We have
well,
Gamer
I'm
Girl.
curious if anybody. Oh, sorry, Christian, go ahead.
Gamer Girl has Spider-Man Homeland, which I guess would be him working for the CIA. But the one that I love, and Zach, you'll like this, Charles Lee, Spider-Man Home Run. He can hide out at Shea Stadium since he loves the Mets. Obviously,
Heck
that park is
yes.
called Citi Field now, but Home Run, I love that idea.
Look, the other side of this is that we don't know how long it's going to be before production can start up. They could start filming right away if it's Spider-Man Stay at Home.
That's right.
Go.
That's true.
Yeah. He's safe at home. He actually doesn't go outside for the entire movie. Well, they have to film it all with Tom Holland like in his bathtub. Because apparently he's been FaceTiming people from his bathtub. Yeah, he's zooming with Dr. Kirk Connors, and then Norman Osborn pops up, and it's just the only fighting he really does is they do like an insult battle, like a roast battle basically. So
look, he's doing everything over the web, so it's appropriate. I'm
That's what it's come to.
I never apologize for my puns. I'm so sorry for that one.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit bad. Like, I've never felt bad from a pun before, but that one kind of hurt me.
We need to create a graphic where we put bars in front of you where you're in jail for a few minutes after one like that. And look, I would deserve them too sometimes. I'm not going to say, any of us could be put in pun jail at some point.
So any other ones from the chat? Any other home suggestions before we move on?
No, but Rock 620 says for Charles Lee idea that Pete Alonso should have a cameo. So that's a very specific Mets reference. And Charles Lee also says, I refuse to call it anything other than Shea Stadium. He's like, I know it's called Citi Field. So I love that too. So I'm glad that a Mets show broke out in our chat.
I'll say this quick and then move on. I will say, of all of the different like corporatized ballparks, a Citi Field is my favorite because it's like so generic that it might not be if you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, the best one is the one in Cincinnati. It's named after a bank. It's Great American Ballpark. Unless you live there, you don't realize that's a bank. You're like, oh, that's a really cool name. And then one final thing, Ghost 8386 says Spider-Man Homeward Bound, which I think that's the movie with the talking animals. Where
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it is.
who knows who his friends could be in Spider-Man Homeward Bound?
Oh my God! Can we get Peter Porker? You get him. You get Spider Dog. There's tons of Spider characters you can get.
Yeah.
If you go deep into the Spider-Man multiverse, there's out west. There's a Spider-Man who had a horse that wore a spider mask.
Sweet.
Just saying, possible.
But
Ryan
let's move on. Ryan threw in one in the chat because he's Mr. Fantastic. I'll read this last one. He says, Spider-Man, My Hometown. I think that's just because you want to use the Bruce Springsteen song in it. I think that's the only reason you're saying that, Ryan.
It is.
As long as I knew I was right.
Nice. All right. So moving on, because we got a few things to get to, and I want to get to our fun, our fun topic. And I want to talk to Jeff more about his comic. James Gunn says that someone will die in Guardians 3. So he was asked.
It's definitely Thor.
He was asked in a Q&A if is someone going to die in Guardians 3. You know, it's the end of a trilogy. That's like that happens a lot in third movies. And all he replied with was yes. Now, before you go freaking out about the danger that Rocket Raccoon might be in, all he said is that someone dies in the movie. It could be anyone. A Chitauri soldier could die in the movie, and he's not lying to you. So just keep that in mind. Do you guys think we'll see a death from any major characters in Guardians 3?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Drax. I think that would actually sort of flesh out his storyline. So
yeah, it's true. I love the character, but I think that would give him a great arc. I absolutely, I agree with that. Unfortunately, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I think it's like, well, who gets too expensive at some point? So do they want to stop paying Chris Pratt? So there, but I don't think that this would be the point where that was. But Rocket and Groot,
you can't.
I think
Chris
Rocket
Pratt.
and Groot are going to be around forever. You might get new voices for them, but they're not going anywhere. Yeah, those characters are fine.
Oh, they're not gonna get rid of Bradley Cooper. You know how easy this job is for him.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to put his name on the movie poster. So
and here's the thing, like here's the reason I don't think you're gonna get any major characters are gonna die in this movie. You can't kill Star-Lord from Guardians. Like, I know Guardians have had a million different lineups over the years, but like as a movie franchise, you can't kill Chris Pratt off. Gamora's already died once, so you can't kill her. Rocket, again, you're not going to kill off Bradley Cooper. Groot's already died once, and been brought back. Mantis and Nebula wouldn't necessarily have the right gravitas to be worth killing off. I don't think, and that does leave Drax, but he also has had his I'm gonna die moment in the films before. Like, he's like, I will do this and then see my daughter again. Like, he's done it on screen. I don't know that you Thanos is dead, Ronan's dead. I don't think he has that arc left. I don't think he has a sacrifice worth his life anymore. And that may his arc may be finding a reason to live. I actually think would be a more interesting story for him, because his goal's done. What do you do after you finish your lifelong goal?
That's good writing. That actually gave me chills. That gave me chills, Zach. I love that. That's good writing. That'd be a great arc for the third episode.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be the big question mark for a lot of them, is how do you move forward with after everything that went down in Endgame and Infinity War. But let's we got to keep moving. And more bad news that you guys I'm sure have heard about by now, but Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con is officially canceled for this year. Not postponed, canceled. It will return in July of 2021, but they made the very smart call to cancel the con. There may still be virtual panels, virtual things going on around July. We'll have to wait and see, but the con itself will not be happening in San Diego. The convention hall is being used to house homeless people who don't have anywhere to go during the lockdown. Like there's a lot of, and also you don't want to put 100,000 people in the same space where you think con crud's bad.
Yeah,
Con
really.
crud in 2020 is deadly. So I'm glad that they're shutting it down. But Christian, you put this note in, so you can shed some light. Dragon Con has not been postponed yet.
No, Dragon Con takes place in Atlanta, and that is scheduled for Labor Day. So it's a little bit later. So, they very, I don't want to say defiantly because that gives it the wrong tone, but they announced, they were like, we're still planning to give everybody something to look forward to. And you don't want to get too bogged down into the headlines, but the fact of the matter is Georgia is amongst the first states that are trying to reopen. So you look, you can think whatever you want about that. You just hope it goes well. You hope everybody's safe. So if that works, you can see them. All right, well, let's see what we can do. So I don't know for sure that would change, but I can see that being one that, and that's not the size of San Diego Comic-Con. I think that's at least a part of it. You get the feeling that they're kind of looking at doing one day of it. And I do wonder kind of what the con would look like, but that's, everything else, I haven't heard of anything else that's still happening. That one being in Labor Day, it's a little bit of a gray area because you have big events like Coachella still planning on happening in October here not here, closer to where Jeff lives in California. So, I think that people are at least optimistic. And look, I'd love for there to be cons in September and October. I guess we'll just have to see. But that one definitely jumped out at me, that Dragon Con's still happening.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of different stuff going on in like Atlanta's supposedly opening up, but it's no big companies are willing to open up yet because they're playing it smart. Like, look, until we have like the unfortunate likely story, and we don't need to dwell on this. We'll get back into some fun stuff in a moment, but the unfortunate thing is until we have a vaccine for this, any con is dangerous, and it would behoove everyone to not participate because you're putting everyone around you at risk and not just yourself. So pay attention to what the places like the World Health Organization are saying, and listen to the science, and that by listening to that, we will get back to nerding out together at cons and going and overspending on comic books very soon. So
we should put Hank Pym and Reed Richards on this. I think I said that last week. Those are the scientists that I trust.
Reed would have it done in like a week. But he would also he would find a way to do it, but somehow it would open up a wormhole into the negative zone.
No, Reed would accidentally create a far worse threat to the human race by creating the so
yeah,
that's the beauty of Reed.
And do you trust Hank Pym after the whole Ultron thing, at least from the comic book standpoint? So
great point.
There's that too. So how trustworthy are these guys?
Yeah,
I think. Well, here's the thing. Again, Pym would solve it. It would take him a little bit longer than Richards.
Sure,
he would get it done. He would just alienate everyone in his life while doing it. And then, but to be honest, the one here's. And then, like of all the powerful minds, like then you jump over, go to my home country, go to Latveria, get Dr. Doom on it. He'll have a vaccine out for you in a day.
Oh yeah,
but he's gonna sacrifice 100,000 people to do it. He's like that. See, that's the thing. None of these are good options.
No. Dr. Doom would have free ice cream for everyone in Latveria, and that's actually the trial run. Testing out the drugs, the vaccines. It's like, let's see what happens when everybody eats this free ice cream. So yeah, you'll need to really monitor him. But look, we mentioned them earlier. You could also you get Kurt Connors and Norman Osborn, and of course, well, we can't get Tony Stark anymore, but Stark Industries. Ooh. So there's plenty of people.
Listen to real scientists and not fake ones is what we're trying to say. But anyway, so moving forward, there's a fun thing that Christian wanted to make sure you guys were aware of coming to as part of Disney Plus tomorrow night.
It's Friday night. So yes, that is tomorrow night, the 24th. That's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's a watch along. I think a lot of people who have Disney Plus have realized that the X-Men 1992 animated series, X-Men the animated series, is there. along with a ton of other great animated series. But so there's a watch along with creator Eric Lewald, his wife Julia, and then Teeny Howard of Marvel. Z and I introduced we interviewed Eric and Julia for Marvel TV Weekly. You can find that interview. We talked to them for more than an hour. That's out there on YouTube, and they're delightful. They have so much insight to that show. And there's actual things that, because of the production schedule, you find out that they did things first in the show, and then the comics were like, oh, we want to do that. So then it looked like they took it from the comics. But so they have a lot of great insight into making that show, which I think is a show that universally, I would say all of us watching this show right now probably love that X-Men animated series. So I think that'd be fun to do, a little watch along.
Yeah. I also feel the need to point out Julia Lewald is joining not just Eric Lewald's wife, but also a writer and producer on X-Men the animated series.
She wrote a number of the episodes. Yeah, I misidentified them as co-creators at one point, so now I'm overly careful in how I position her credit. But yeah, she was also a writer on the show. Absolutely.
Yes, the marriage is incidental, but she did write some of the show.
Yes. Exactly.
But yeah, so real quick, just like another note, this continues to be such a weird time in Hollywood. Marvel has officially terminated its overall deals with two of its television showrunners. Paul Zbyszewski. I
doesn't matter now.
Know how to pronounce that name. But he was an executive producer on S.H.I.E.L.D. and he was the showrunner on Hellstrom. Or is the showrunner Hellstrom? That part is a little bit unclear because that show's still in production. But him and Steve Lightfoot, who was the showrunner for Punisher on Netflix, both had overall deals with Marvel Television, and Disney has claimed force majeure, which basically means, long story, legal terminology, blah, blah, blah. Disney's saying because of the virus and the shutdown in production, that is a good enough excuse for them to cancel these deals and not have to pay out the final amounts of the deal going forward. So that is, it doesn't really affect anything except for Hellstrom.
Yeah, I would say
done. Hellstroms are shot and in post. And then Punisher has been off the air for a while.
I think the one takeaway is that it reinforces the thought that I think a lot of us have, that Hellstrom's going to be one and done. We're just going to get one season of it. And so I think that's really the one thing that it says.
Yeah. It was just the one that was like, it was too far along to pull the plug on. So if I guess like, it's good, it's fine. We weren't going to do anything with Hellstrom anytime soon. So finish the show, put it up on Hulu, and then we'll pretend it never existed. Not that it's going to be bad. It'll still be there for everyone to watch, but the MCU is not going to acknowledge it. Anyway, I want to get to the fun topic for today, because we're talking about, inspired by Jeff, your series, The Alternate, which is a comic book series available now on digital. We want to talk about the best Marvel alternate reality, the most fun, the one you enjoy the most. I said ultimate because I kind of want to take the Ultimate Universe off the table, because that's an easy one to say, because it's so, like, the Ultimate Universe has so much good stuff. It's its own whole world of books. But I'm talking about like a true alternate reality where everything's twisted and changed. Do you guys have one off the top of your head, a favorite? And chat, let us know your favorite, like, alternate dimension, alternate universe in Marvel. There's so many of them.
So mine, real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, only a 2-issue thing. Marvel 2-in-1, number 50, which is for Christian knows this, is a Thing team-up series that ran from the 70s to the early 80s, and it introduces an alternate version of the Thing. There's time travel involved, so I don't want to get too into it to spoil it. But it only takes place in that issue and in issue 100, which is the last issue of the series. It's a great sort of quick, easy read. It also happens to be John Byrne's first full script job for Marvel. So he did the art in the first part.
What was it about what is it about the alternate world of that story that stands out to you so much?
Well, I can tell you this, the setup is, you get it in the first 3 pages. It's a very clean story. Reed Richards develops a serum that will cure the Thing, but it only would have worked in the early days of him having been the Thing. So Ben decides, okay, I'm just going to use Dr. Doom's time platform, take it back in time, give it to myself as an earlier version of myself, and that will be the cure. And let's say it doesn't work out quite that way. And so you end up with one of these, it's Earth like 3814 or whatever. You have the main Marvel universe is Earth 616. This is Earth 3814, and comedy ensues. Comedy in big, bold, like 1970s Marvel action.
Nice.
So,
Christian, what about you? What's a story? What's an alternate universe that really stands out to you?
It's the Age of Apocalypse, which was they basically turned the entire mutant line over for 4 months to do this alternate reality story, and the gist of it is David Haller, our friend also known as Legion, decides that he wants to help his dad in his own deranged way, so he goes back in time and he's going to kill Magneto, except whoops, he kills Professor Xavier. So instantly you have this alternate timeline. If you've ever seen the Wolverine with only one arm and there's like an adamantium stump on the other hand, it's a fascinating alternate reality that they've used a couple of times. And this alternate version of Cable, known as X-Man, actually they transitioned him to the main MCU because he was such an interesting, different version of the character. So that's it for me. Close runner-up, Days of Future Past, but I think that they really explored the Age of Apocalypse really well.
Nice. For me, my favorite, I like the ones that go like weird and extreme. 1602, the Neil Gaiman series,
sure.
where it's literally what would the Marvel universe look like if it was in the 1600s, is so much fun as a big Marvel nerd. You have Sir Nicholas Fury, who's like the Queen's man, who has basically creates the underground shield secret service for the Queen in England. His ward Peter Parquois, who's partially French and has spider powers. You have Sir Anthony Stark, who's Spanish and is just in a big suit of armor because he's a knight. It all lines up. And then the big crux of that series is centered around mutants, which are basically like they're considered it's a witch hunt. Like they're considered like witches and or witch folk. I didn't write down the exact term. It's been a few years since I read it, but it's a super fun and interesting book where like you have all of the mutants on the run from the Spanish Inquisition, essentially, that they're being hunted down. Obviously it's very similar to that, but just the fun of creating these weird 1600s versions of every single Marvel character is so much fun to read. It's on Marvel Unlimited, so if you want to check it out, and there's a couple spin-off series, like they did Fantastic Four 1602 that like focused on them. It's a good time. It's really interesting, and like some of the magic users are just like full on there, and what they do with Captain America is like super interesting and weird. I don't want to spoil that one. Also, I'm being corrected in the chat by Langley M. Neely that I've mispronounced Peter Parka.
What? So they moved him to Boston, Peter Parker.
I thought he was French, so I was like,
yeah.
Parquois.
Well,
but some of the ones we see in chat, Ghost 8386 says Marvel Zombies, and the Noir universe. That's a really cool one.
Yeah.
The Noir universe is always fun, and not just the clean Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse one, but the Noir universe one. Christian and I were talking about it before the show.
Yeah, that's the only one that I'd be okay living in, I think. A lot of these other alternate realities I have some issues with. But, before we run out of time, obviously, alternate realities brings us into The Alternate, which is Jeff's comic, the 6th issue of which is available on Comixology, and I assume you can get it other ways, but that's how I've seen it. So in our final moments, Jeff, explain what The Alternate is and kind of what the inspiration was for the series.
Yeah, thanks. So, just in line with this, it's all about alternate universes. It's something I've been fascinated with when I first started reading comics, mostly because of this Marvel 2-in-1 comic that I mentioned and DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths. So it's about a guy, his name is James Conrad, and he's the only superhuman on Earth. And he does like what most people would do, being gifted by fate with amazing powers. He becomes a celebrity and becomes rich and famous. And his life's going fine. He's dating supermodels. He's making Tonight Show appearances until there's an alien invasion. And through the course of that, he gets thrown to an alternate reality. And in that reality, there are tons of superheroes, including another version of himself who's smarter, better looking, more powerful, and much more heroic. And that's the jump off point for the series.
Awesome. And what was it that like, cause like it's really interesting what you set up with like Metal and then versus like Metal Man.
Right.
What went into like deciding what that alternate world was going to look like? Did you play with like, oh, well, you could see him in like, as a human, you could see him as like even more powerful. What went into that choice?
Yeah, the whole thing, when I came up with this, it was a time where Marvel and DC weren't really doing the alternate universe storylines. And I just really missed that. And that's obviously picked up a lot, in recent years. But so I love this concept that from the DC universe, there was a pre-crisis on Infinite Earth Superman. He could move planets, he could juggle the moon, and then the post-crisis Superman wasn't as powerful. And I thought, wow, it would be cool if those two characters met. And that was sort of the jump off, and then it sort of evolved a little bit, like what would make two characters different. And I kind of get into that in issue 4 about their backstory and sort of explains exactly what put them on different paths. So that's essentially it. I started out with the book where I was doing more analogies of Marvel or DC characters, and I sort of ditched all that. And so the other characters, I have Jack Pumpkinhead from The Wizard of Oz. There's a character called the Expert who is sort of like Reed Richards, but he's cooler, for like Reed Richards and Tony Stark sort of pushed together.
Awesome. And this is up on it's up on Comixology, right? You have
it's
a 6-issue
so
series.
That's right. If you check it out, you're not hurting your local comic book shop at all. It's closed because it's only on digital anyway. So Comixology.
Awesome.
Yeah. The final point, I know we have to wrap up. The last issue, you and I talked about off the air. You have a couple of characters that surprisingly are in the public domain now. Blue Beetle and a character named Wonder Man, who's not the Marvel Wonder Man.
Yes.
So talk about figuring out how you can actually have access to these characters that surprisingly are in the public domain.
Yeah, there are tons of these characters from old comic book companies, mostly from the 30s and 40s, who just published books. They went out of business, and nobody bothered to renew the rights. And so you can go online, you can find resources that list dozens of them. And the weird thing is, some of them have names like Blue Beetle and Wonder Man that are owned by Marvel and DC. So the trick of it is, you can use the characters, you can use their names, just not on the covers because of the trademark issues. And Wonder Man in particular is an interesting backstory where he was created by Will Eisner, who also famously created the Spirit, the long-running comic strip. But DC saw the book and they thought this is a clear Superman knockoff. So they sued the publisher and they won. So he only appeared in one book in 1939 and he was gone.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
So those are fun characters to use and sort of reimagine.
Yeah. Well, I've read all 6 issues and I highly recommend them, not just because I like Jeff, but partially because I like Jeff.
That's fine. Whatever the reason is, I don't care. Come check it out. I appreciate everybody checking it out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us
for
Marvel movie news this week. Gonna keep getting weird, talking about more Marvel stuff as much as we can once a week here on Popcorn Talk. Thank you everyone who's watching for joining us live. Jeff, if people want to find you on the internet other than just searching for The Alternate on Comixology, where can they go?
On Twitter, I'm at Jeff Winstead. On Instagram, I'm at Jeff Winstead. We keep it very simple.
Perfect. Christian, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ, and I have my personal podcast, The Blattcast, BLADTCAST. Our episode earlier this week, our friend Zia joined us for about 20 minutes, and you can see the video of that on our YouTube channel. And we're doing a live 375th episode on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. You can find that on the Blattcast YouTube page.
Yeah,
awesome. I'm Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at that Zach Wilson. And also check out my other podcast, Getting Weird on Ships in the Night, which we're doing on Twitch every Wednesday live at 8 p.m. at twitch.tv/Pack Theater. And then it's up on podcast form. Last night we talked about the real Tiger King battle. What if Tigger and Hobbs got together? What would that relationship look like? That's available at twitch.tv/Pack Theater, and it'll be up in a couple weeks on the podcast as well. Uh, until next time, guys, this has been Marvel Movie News saying, wash your hands for the love of God, and Excelsior.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.